Hey there, my name is Kevin Dusk. I'm the president of Prime Rogue Inc. We're a Calgary-based geopolitical risk analysis and private intelligence firm with various holding things. Today we're going to be talking about international anarchy in relation to yesterday's video about the ongoing UN General Assembly. One of our viewers asked us for a bit of clarification about what we were talking about when we discussed international anarchy, so I thought I'd go into that today. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to drop the channel a follow, like and share this video. It's much appreciated. But let's get into it. Anarchy, as theorized by the earliest theorists of international relations, is not what you might think it is. Anarchy doesn't imply chaos. Anarchy implies the lack of a centralized global authority. In domestic society, if we have an issue, we have these laws that govern, us and preclude us from engaging in acts like murder and theft. Well, despite the existence of international institutions like the United Nations and the Security Council and its ability to justify various military interventions, you can't just call the global police if you've been invaded. That's not a thing. And that's what international anarchy refers to. It refers to a condition of non-governance. There might be hierarchy in the international system, but this hierarchy is based on power rather than institutions. And we'll get into this institutions thing in a bit, because there are institutions in the international system. But Kenneth Waltz, who's the father of structural realism in international relations, argued that the distribution of power, or the balance of power in the international system, that is to say, whether states are capable of deterring each other from engaging in conflict based on their own power, is the primary determinant of whether there's war or peace in the international system. If the costs of going to war are too high, states won't do it. On the other hand, if there's an imbalance of power, states are going to be predatory and engage. The neoliberals that I was talking about yesterday in our previous post about General Assembly, and the idea of neoliberalism or neoliberal institutionalism is well embedded in the UN, is that if states cooperate through trade and institutions, they're going to increase the costs of war. And the reason for that is because if you're interdependent with another state and you break off a trade relationship, say you go to war with a country that's your main supplier of iron and you don't produce iron domestically, what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to build more tanks to fight that war, so you're going to be out of luck. So that was the promise that the liberal institutionalists brought in. And then you have a third school of thought called Constructivism, which is represented by Alex Wendt, who was one of my professors at during grad school at the Ohio State University, and he argued that a bit of a more idea-based argument, that there's no reason for anarchy to cause war unless we assume that it will. And he likes to use the metaphor of aliens coming down to Earth. And he's like, well, are we automatically going to war with the aliens, or are they automatically going to war with us? And he suggests that they won't, because we don't have an image of them as an enemy. Now, to an extent I agree with Alex, to an extent I disagree, but that's neither here nor there. The point we're getting at is that anarchy is not chaos, although the international system is in chaos today, because I think we're witnessing what I would refer to as the absolute failure of multilateral neoliberalism. The institutions that govern the international system, whether it's the World Trade Organization in relation to trade, the United Nations in relation to conflict prevention, are simply failing. And a lot of that has to do with the distribution of power. Russia and the United States both hold vetoes, permanent vetoes, on the United Nations Security Council, which means that the United States can't condemn Russia's actions in Ukraine without the Russians vetoing such a resolution at the not the General Assembly, at the UN Security Council. All the while, despite ubiquitous criticisms of Israel's behavior in Gaza and now in Lebanon, every time a state tries to condemn it in the Security Council, the United States vetoes it because Israel is its main Middle Eastern proxy. So when I say that we're witnessing the failure of multilateralism, what I was saying yesterday, and I'll be getting into this more and more as time goes on, and as I think of the imminence of greater global conflict, that it's going to be fueled by things like AI, a growing China concomitant to a declining America, this imbalance of power is going to grow. And I'm going to drop links to Kenneth Waltz's theory of international relations and Alex Wentz's social theory of international relations in the description. We're starting to see a world that I rejected in graduate school, which is Waltz's world of balance of power politics, versus what I saw as a more peaceful world in Wentz's version. And I think we might cycle through the two of them across history, but I think we're entering, in line with the Mearsheimer book, and I'll drop that again in the description as well, that we talked about yesterday, an era of tragedy, the true tragedy of great power politics, when predation in the international system occurs because the costs of engaging in predation are less significant than the costs of maintaining institutions and trade agreements. If you look at Russia invading Ukraine, if you look at Israel doing whatever the hell it's doing, there are not very many consequences. There's no intervention. There's barely any condemnation. There's just balance of power politics. U.S. supplying weapons to Ukraine, U.S. supplying weapons to Israel, bombs dropping, people dying. International institutions aren't working the way they were promised to work. They may have worked at some periods, especially after the Cold War, but it's been a long time. We'll be talking more about this in the days and weeks to come. But again, if you could, please drop a like, follow, share this video with your friends or your enemies. Again, I'm Kevin Duska from Prime Rogue Inc. here in Calgary, 6 p.m. on the 26th of September. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.